On April 15, 1912, the world woke up to a story that would be repeated for generations. Newspapers called it an unavoidable tragedy. People were told it was a terrible accident, the result of fate, darkness, and a massive iceberg that appeared too late to avoid. The story sounded simple. The greatest ship ever built met an unexpected obstacle in the middle of the ocean. But over time, as investigations unfolded and survivor testimonies were studied, a disturbing truth began to emerge. The sinking of the RMS Titanic was not just the result of bad luck. The biggest lie told about the Titanic was that it was an unavoidable disaster. When the Titanic left Southampton on April 10th, it was more than just a ship. It was a symbol of human progress, engineering, confidence, and luxury. Built by the famous shipbuilding company Harland and Wolff, the vessel was designed to be one of the safest ships ever created. It had watertight compartments, advanced communication systems, and powerful engines. Many people believed it was practically unsinkable. This belief created an atmosphere of overconfidence, not only among passengers but also within the company that owned the ship, the White Star Line. From the very beginning of the voyage, speed became a quiet priority. Although no official record proves there was a race for a speed record, there was strong pressure to make a fast and impressive crossing. The Titanic was traveling close to its maximum speed despite entering waters known to contain ice. This decision alone increased the risk dramatically. Icebergs are not dangerous only because of their size, but because they are difficult to detect at night, especially when the sea is calm and the moon is absent. As the ship moved deeper into the North Atlantic, warning messages began arriving from other vessels. These were not vague or uncertain reports. They clearly described large ice fields and dangerous conditions ahead. Some warnings were delivered to the bridge, but others never reached senior officers. The wireless operators were busy sending personal messages for wealthy passengers, and operational safety messages were treated as routine interruptions. The danger was not invisible. It was reported multiple times. Another uncomfortable truth is that the Titanic did not carry enough lifeboats for everyone on board. At the time, maritime safety regulations were outdated and based on ship size categories that had not kept up with modern vessels. The Titanic carried lifeboats for only about half the people on board. However, this was not just about regulations. The ship actually had space for more lifeboats. But additional boats were not installed because they would clutter the deck and reduce the luxurious appearance of the vessel. Image and comfort were given priority over emergency preparedness. On the night of April 14th, the weather conditions made the situation even more dangerous. The sea was unusually calm, which sounds safe, but actually made icebergs harder to see because there were no waves breaking at their base. The temperature dropped rapidly, and the lookouts were scanning the darkness with the naked eye. Another critical problem existed. The binoculars that should have been available to the lookouts were not accessible due to a last-minute change in crew assignments. This small oversight removed another layer of safety. At 11:40 p.m., the iceberg was finally spotted directly ahead. The warning was given immediately, and the ship attempted to turn and reverse engines. But at such high speed, the massive vessel could not change direction quickly enough. The iceberg scraped along the starboard side, opening multiple sections below the waterline. The damage exceeded the ship's safety design. Within minutes, engineers realized the Titanic would not survive. Even after the collision, confusion and disbelief slowed the response. Many passengers were not informed about the seriousness of the situation. Some crew members themselves initially believed the ship would remain afloat. Lifeboat loading began slowly, and early boats left half empty because people were reluctant to leave the warm, brightly lit ship for the cold darkness outside. Time, which could have saved lives, was lost to hesitation and poor communication. Perhaps one of the most tragic realities was how close help actually was. The SS Californian was nearby and had stopped earlier that night because of heavy ice. Its crew saw distress rockets in the distance but did not fully understand the situation. Its wireless operator had already shut down for the night, missing Titanic's emergency calls. Meanwhile, the rescue ship, RMS Carpathia, was much farther away and took hours to arrive. When the Titanic finally sank at 2:20 a.m., more than 1,500 people lost their lives. The world was shocked, not only by the scale of the tragedy, but also by the stories of bravery, sacrifice, and survival. But in the days that followed, a narrative began to form. The disaster was presented as an unavoidable act of nature. The iceberg became the villain. The ocean became the cause. The human decisions that led to the situation were mentioned, but not emphasized. This is where the biggest lie took shape. Calling the sinking an unavoidable accident removed responsibility. It protected reputations. It preserved the image of companies and systems that had failed. But official investigations later revealed a long chain of human errors. High speed in dangerous waters. Ignored ice warnings. Insufficient lifeboats. Poor emergency planning. Communication failures. Overconfidence at every level. The Titanic did not sink because it hit an iceberg. It sank because it was traveling too fast when it hit the iceberg. It sank because warnings were not treated as urgent. It sank because safety measures were designed to meet minimum standards instead of maximum protection. It sank because people believed the ship was too advanced to fail. The tragedy forced major changes in maritime safety around the world. Lifeboat requirements were increased. Ships were required to maintain continuous radio watch. The International Ice Patrol was created to monitor iceberg dangers in the North Atlantic. These reforms saved countless lives in the years that followed. In a painful way, the Titanic disaster became a turning point. More than a century later, the story still fascinates people around the world. Movies, books, documentaries, and research continue to revisit the event. But the most important lesson is not about the iceberg, the luxury, or even the scale of the loss. The real lesson is about human nature. Progress and technology can create a dangerous illusion of control. Success can lead to overconfidence. Small warnings, when ignored, can lead to enormous consequences. The biggest lie told about the Titanic is not just a historical misunderstanding. It is a reminder of how disasters are often explained in simple ways that hide complex truths. It is easier to blame nature than to examine decisions. It is easier to call something fate than to admit preventable mistakes. On that cold night in April 1912, the ocean did not suddenly become dangerous. The iceberg did not appear without warning. The risk was known. The information was available. The opportunity to slow down, prepare, and act differently existed again and again. But confidence replaced caution. Routine replaced urgency. Appearance replaced safety. And when the ship finally disappeared beneath the dark Atlantic waters, it carried with it more than passengers and dreams. It carried a powerful lesson about the cost of ignoring risk and the danger of believing that modern systems cannot fail. The Titanic was not defeated by nature alone. It was defeated by decisions.